SEO acquisitions are reshaping our industry. Over the past year, we have seen various acquisitions, from SEMrush's purchase of knowledge resources to larger agency mergers. How will these changes transform the search landscape and strategy? According to a report from Intrepid, after a decline in transaction volume in 2021, marketing services M&A activity overall returned to a growth trajectory in 2024, and it is now exceeding pre-pandemic metrics. This highlights the accelerating pace of industry shifts across the search landscape, as evident by SEMrush's acquisitions of 5 targets in 2024. Here's the challenge. Independent agencies face mounting pressure. Enterprise solutions dominate market conversations. Specialized expertise becomes harder to find. How can businesses navigate these challenging SEO ecosystems? This is the Voice of the Search podcast. I'm Jordan Cooney, and joining us today is Jim Boykin, Chief Ninja at Internet Marketing Ninjas, which helps businesses improve their digital marketing performance. Today, Jim will share how we are reshaping the industry through acquisition. Jim, welcome to the Voice of the Search podcast.
Jordan, it is a pleasure to be here. I feel we have so much to talk about that if this can only go an hour, we're gonna have to do some follow-ups.
I don't know if we'll be able to limit it to an hour, but we might have to cut this up into a couple episodes. But Jim, it's exciting to have you on the show, and we have really some exciting news to share with the industry. And I'm thrilled to have you here to make that announcement. So, the Previsible has acquired Internet Marketing Ninjas, and I'd love for Jim to share more about this crazy news and this exciting opportunity for these two companies.
Yeah, well, Jordan, thank you. And, I think both of us look at this as well as like a merger of two beautiful, wonderful companies. The Ninjas have been around for more than 26 years now. We have a lot of knowledge. I think like the average ninja's been with us for, I think it's like more than 14 years now. Like, it's just such a good, knowledgeable staff. But, how do I say, the times are changing as well. Like SEO is changing, internet marketing is changing. And it's like, we've always specialized in the link building, which is still an incredibly important thing. If you want to rank in Google, you're going to need backlinks, and there, that's still the specialty. But there's more going on now. There's more pieces, and I guess the elephant that's in the room is AI. And so, having as well, like the merger of our old experienced SEO team along with a younger team as well that complements us, that has the content team, that has the writers, that has the knowledge, that has the tools, that have the analysts that are also looking at AI. And a lot of companies right now, if they're still doing old school stuff, like they may not be around in a few years. And I loved the very first time we met and everything, and explaining everything, and there's a future shift going on, and just how we found out that the merger of our two companies can help put us in a spot to be where we need to be in this new changing world of not just SEO, but AI as well. And, finding what are all of the things that need to be done and who can do them and which part of teams and which tools do we have. And it's like, it's really, the peanut butter and the jelly of teams merging.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
I can't be more happier. Like it has me so excited because, as also an old SEO company, like we've got to change and do new things as well. Links are still huge, but there's this whole future of things. And then being able to partner, with a company like Previsible and all of your staff, who I absolutely love, through this merger, it's just been amazing. Sorry, I'm rambling because it's like
I love this.
This is everything going on. Like, it's gonna be tough for our industry, and like I feel like we are positioned so far above everyone else now, and like everything that we're doing is like it's yeah, I'm excited.
It's
Like
super
I think we're
exciting.
still
And a couple questions for you, Jim, because I think not only is this a very exciting opportunity for these two companies, but I think it's very unique, right? It's not a common outcome for two companies of this size with this kind of history and capabilities to come together and merge. And as we've talked about, Jim, over the past 6 or so months, there's so much continuity between the groups, from a culture standpoint, people standpoint, from a services standpoint. There's just tons of continuity in what we do. And I am I'm curious for you to give us a little history of the ninjas. And this is important because the ninjas go back to really the beginning of SEO. SEO as a practice, SEO as a discipline. And today, now it's very formalized, it's very organized. Big companies have big teams. It's that didn't exist 20 plus years ago.
yeah.
And so I'd love for you to give a little story of the ninjas, how it got started, where it is today, and what you guys do remarkably well in the industry.
Certainly. In in 1999, I started it. We were originally known as We Build Pages, and it was me, myself, and I. That was the we. And so I started back in 1999 as just me. At one point, like I realized, like back then there were, I don't know, 20 plus major search engines. And so you were doing different things optimized for different places. And at one point,
Sure.
Google just started eating up the industry. And
Yeah.
at such point, when I realized, hey, it is all about Google, it's also what's Google's biggest ranking factor, and it was backlinks. And so, I very quickly got into, hey, let's build backlinks. And really the whole goal is how do we get our clients ranked? It's SEO, and especially, going back not all that long ago, everything was about, keywords and rankings on those keywords. And one of the uh, best ways to do that is get a bunch of really powerful backlinks to link to those pages using money phrases, and voila, you're ranked really high. Now, how do I say, we've had to evolve that over the years. In 2008, Google, in one sense, told me, hey, Jim, thou shalt not buy backlinks again with
Yep.
money
Yeah.
phrase anchor text going to money pages. And that was back in 2008. And so we had to, at the time, it really sucked because a lot of what we were doing was buying backlinks to targeted pages. And boy, does that work. But you can also get penalized for that.
Jim, I want to ask you a question about 2008 because I actually think this is a transformative period of time for the SEO industry. We're in a transformative period of time right now as Google is introducing more and more AI capabilities to the SERP. We're seeing more and more shifts in how to do SEO as a practice, and that happened in 2008. You and your team at the Ninjas had a transition away from a, let's call it buying backlink approach
Yep.
to a holistic and totally different way of doing business.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I find remarkable about what the Ninjas do as I got to learn more about the company and learn more about how you guys do link building. I want to know, like, give me that story of going from 2008 to doing what you guys do today in terms of trusted links, reputation, and other content marketing that
Sure.
helps drive real, valuable link mentions for
Sure.
brands and companies.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a website, you have to be ideally doing something to get other sites to link to you. If you want to rank in Google and AI, the whole, I was thinking of a car this morning, and I'm like, if we, for the first time ever, actually, I was like, all these different pieces of the equation are different pieces of the car. Maybe schemas, some extra chrome you got on, or, but the whole thing that makes the car run is the gas. And that's like the links, it's the power, it's the,
Mhm.
if you have really good backlinks, it's like, I don't know, you got the high grade gas in your car.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you don't. But um, there's So it's like you need to be doing something to your on your website or in your industry to ideally, get news and get mentions on a regular basis. You can't just be like, I sell, I don't know, watches, and I'm just gonna have a watch website and people will come. Like, come on, like, you
Right.
need if you want to rank and things, you have to write stuff that can earn links, whether maybe it's educational content, maybe it's viral bait, maybe it's creating some type of tool, maybe it's doing some type of original study, maybe it's a interview, a pod, something. You got to be doing something to get mentions to your site all the time, and the more mentions that your site gets, the more powerful your site is, the better your gas is,
Yep.
the quicker you're going to go. There's certainly other pieces, and other pieces are really important. There is usability is really important. You got to have the right content on the pages. You want your technical aspects to be good.
So Jim, on this gas piece, all right, we're links are this fuel. They're critical to how we do things. Tell us about trusted links. I really feel like how we build trusted links is something that's so unique in the industry. So few companies, on the services side at least, are doing things in a way that you've built. It's got so much integrity, value behind it, and just give our listeners who don't know about the ninjas, who don't know about what you've built, a little bit of context as to the value of how you create these trusted links.
Sure. So, it all comes down to the right type of content. There's content for all different reasons. You need to have your content optimized on your product pages. You need, informational pages about that. You ideally have question pages about that. You have all these things for the users and for the search engines. And you then need to create something that can earn backlinks, like something that might be a bit outside of the box. Like, is there, if you were to think about how could you write, or what is it that you could write that could perhaps earn links from EDUs or K-12s or old orgs? And so, you got to think of what is that type of content. It's certainly going to be non-commercial intent content, informational, not look like some big SEO piece with keyword links all throughout it. Like, if you're going to be asking, a school or an org to link to a great resource, if it looks like some SEO thing, they're not going to link to that. And so it's like you have to understand that, some of what you need to write is for links, and that stuff should be written, it's got to be related to your site and your topic and a really good resource and something that would deserve to get that kind of link. Because, if let's say we wrote some piece about, I think I mentioned earlier, if you had a site selling watches, like wrist watches, you might want to, if you're writing stuff for, I don't know, these types of links, maybe it's stuff to do with how to tell time, and maybe, and again, there's other
Yep.
content as well, but maybe the most expensive luxury watches of all time, or all kinds
Yep.
of studies on watches. But I guess the first part is, there's different content for different intents, and some of the intent could be, hey, I want something to go viral, and I want to get in the news, and I want to get mentioned by bloggers. And so, I'm going to write something that ideally could spread on, Reddit or Quora, or get in the news and blogs. And then there's other content where it's like, all right, this is stuff that's written to go viral, but this is stuff that we're going to write maybe to geared towards, schools and teachers and or govs or orgs, like some other type of informational content that may not go viral, but is a really good educational piece for those types of sites. So, we're writing content for different purposes. A couple of the purposes have to do with how can we also get backlinks to the site. And so, maybe it's a viral piece, maybe it's a trusted content piece that we're trying to get links from schools and teachers and orgs, or maybe a viral
Right.
that we want to spread.
But all of it starts with content, and you
Yeah,
guys then do this organic outreach to really identify how to partner that content with the right resources on the web.
yeah,
On this piece of that process, because this process is entirely holistic, right? This is not a there's no like machine generation. There's no AI fluff being thrown into the content creation or the outreach efforts. That leads me to this next question for you, Jim, which is things are changing super fast. The AI transition that we're embarking on right now is is changing not only the SEO services from all companies, but is really changing the entire landscape. What's happening in the SERPs? How do we stay relevant? How is SEO services, consulting services, may it be link building or otherwise, staying relevant in this AI era?
Well, there's a lot there, but I guess part of it is, well, and that we've been going through everything that, let's pick apart AI for a moment, because if we say,
Sure. Yeah,
most of the reason why, a lot of websites traffic is going down, and they
it
may have the
is today.
same, rankings, but their traffic is going down. And a lot of that is because currently, like, a lot of people may think it's Chat GPT, which some of it could be, but that really is, how do I say, the traffic from that is often a lot less than Bing these days. And how much do we worry about Bing traffic? Like everything. But the big thing is the AI overviews in Google. And that's what's pushing everything down. What a lot of people are reading, a lot of people, especially their blog pages, are falling. And so, I guess I could go on and on about, this is the new thing, and then we're going to see more and more of it in the future, whether it's, Google AI overviews, whether it's a Google AI interface, whether it's Chat GPT, Perplexity, whatever. Like, AI is going to be catching on. And so, a lot of what we've been doing is analyzing what are all the pieces of what are all the things that the different AI large language models, each one, are looking at, for which ones are they mentioning in the results. And
Yep.
so, it's been this huge checklist, and then categorizing the checklist, and then, you know I think the cool thing when we put this all together is we're like, hey, we've done like 90% of all this stuff that kind of is the new priority list in the AI world. And everything on here, that is good for AI, in a sense, is also good for SEO. Like, there's nothing that's good or bad for the other. It's, continue to make your site the best site in the world out of all
Of course.
competitors.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And but now I guess the checklist is I don't want to say change, but it's like now we have a new list of, hey, if we do this, it's good for AI, if we, or AI in Google, and kind of going through that.
Two things that stand out for me in that, Jim, is one of them is mentions still matter, right? Like
Yeah.
being mentioned, being recognized for a topic still matters greatly. And sure, we could all go spend, tens of millions of dollars on Super Bowl ads. That's unrealistic. So how do you do that on the web? You still have to build authority through trusted link placements
Yeah.
that that are highly contextual, highly useful to the main theme that you're trying to rank for,
Yep.
or be present for, right? Because now presence is almost more important than rankings. The whole concept of rankings is changing in this whole AI evolution. And one of the things that you've brought up, Jim, and I've seen it in some of the work that we've been doing together over the past couple months, as we merge the two companies and people together, is how we identify these key signals, right? So you mentioned like we're this massive checklist, these elements that we're looking at, but one of those elements is understanding where the authority is being built on a topic. And I think that discovery work is one of the biggest changes that's going to happen in our
Yeah.
SEO work. Is how do you figure out what actually works in an LLM? And you've been doing a lot of research on that, and I'd love for you to share with our listeners a little more context as why is that so important to the work we're doing today in AI? What's the research work that needs to be done to show up in AI? Like, how do you go and figure out that topic that you're going to write about, the link mentions that you want to get? You know,
Sure. Yeah.
and I mean, if I'm looking at the AI checklist,
Yep.
Jim, what I'm trying to lead you into is like, hey, there's all this
Sure.
external authority and reputation building. Like, we have to go do all the homework of understanding, do we need to optimize for knowledge graph? Do we need
Yeah,
digital PR? Do we need community engagement? Should we be doing viral assets? Like there's a bunch of research that goes into all these aspects
there
to
is.
then go do link building, because we don't know. You need to know how to show up
Yep.
before you go and get all those placements.
There's the analysis of the car, there
Yeah.
is, you know, if we look at the different pillars, let's start with the easy one. There's content, and I guess to start with, there needs to be some type of content audit. What content do you have? Um, do your current SEO pages need better optimizing? I guess you start out with there. I guess that would be kind of the first step, the on-page optimization. But then, there's conversion enhancements, looking at your internal linking. Um, Kind of one of the new things as well is what's known as topic clustering. And that's,
Mhm.
I guess I'll go back to if you're someone that sells watches, you want to have all this, different types of watch content. Maybe let me go backwards. Let's say you sell, all sorts of jewelry, including watches. You're going to want a whole bunch of different watch content, maybe ring content as well, and different types of content. And you're going to want to interlink those together. Um, Part of the audit as well is going to be, let's do an AI audit. Which places are you showing up for? What are your pages that are getting traffic from AI? Um, Here's kind of a big one. If you look at their reputation, their about us page, like we'll make it simple. If you look at someone's about us page and their author pages, do these pages exude authority? How is that site mentioned across the internet? Um, are there content clusters that need to be written? How are their testimonials? What is content that could potentially earn links? What's content that potentially could be written or created to earn links? How is their usability? Like, there needs to be a usability analysis. How is their usability? Are there improvements in there? There's the technical aspects.
Yep.
One of the bigger things is structured data now. And structured data was always on the list, but maybe a little bit lower on the list. Are you using the right kind of schema? Do you have your product schema, your article schema, your FAQ, your how-to, your breadcrumbs? Uh, how's the crawl, the accessibility, what is the internal linking strategy? What are the page speeds? Is it mobile friendly? Do you have images where they should be, videos where they should be? Are they on the right topics? Do they have the right meta descriptions or meta tags on those?
Right.
There's social proof. Are they mentioned in Reddit? Are they in Quora? What does their social look like? Really, it's the entity consistency. And there's the whole research of, is your name, address, phone number, uh, everywhere across the web? Are you using the same images?
Yep.
Um, I don't know, your Google business profiles, your Google merchant centers. There's, do you have the right type of media on your site, and are you optimizing it right? I guess there's all these different checklists that are things that now we're looking at through the eyes of LLMs and what they are looking at to analyze who are they going to mention in their AI answers. These are all the things that they are looking at. And if you
Correct.
can
Yep.
touch on all those and make them all a little bit better, then great. And it's not just one piece. It's not just backlinks. It's not just, you're optimizing your money pages. It's a big picture of a lot of areas that need to be looked at. And then, you know, how can it be better? How can this area be better? How can this area be better? And, work on improving every one of those pieces. And there's a lot of pieces. And, some are stuff that, that
Yeah.
our teams can help out with. And some are things that, they may have some of their people to help out with. But, at least it's identifying what are all the different pieces, and let's see who can do them, and
Correct.
and here's how to do them, which is part of everything we're putting together. What are all the things to check for, how to check for all those, and then how to improve those, and the whole checklist. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so much to cover around how AI is impacting our landscape, and you you did a thorough review of so many of the aspects that we're looking at. The remarkable piece that I know you and I, Jim, both agree on, and I think much of our industry is still trying to wrap their head around is links and link mentions and how you're being mentioned matter even more now than they had before.
Yep.
Whether it's in these social commentary places, in multimedia type environments like YouTube and video, in a more traditional way, sourced in a reference of data or information. All of this matters greatly to the context that is built by LLM models to then display, mention, reference you in these responses.
It's
Uh,
branding too. Like it's just,
it
you
is.
want to be
Yeah.
mentioned kind of everywhere, or as many places as possible. It can't just be, I just want to do X or Y, or there's for years a lot of people are like, I don't want to look at social. Well, social is part of what's being gathered, especially in Chat GPT and Bing, and anything that can be crawled is open game now as well. And a lot of people didn't want to write other type of informational content for their site. They're like, we sell watches and we have product pages, and that's all we're going to do. And it's
That's all
like
we're gonna do. Yeah.
there are pieces that a lot of people have neglected over the years, that these are things that need to be done now, um, because AI is going to continue to grow,
It is.
and
Yeah.
as much as and a lot of it is SEO. Who are going to be the best AI people? I think it's going to be the people that really understand SEO. Like, what are all the different aspects of your site that need to be looked at to make your site better than all of your competitors? And that's the whole key. And
I love that piece, and I wanna ask you a question about that, Jim,
sure,
because that is you nailed a really important point there, which is these are the experts. These are the people who are gonna help us unlock growth in any of these experiences, right? I mean, I watch commercials right now of Google, promoting, ask Google anything. And, they're trying to push the whole voice enabled LLM response type search experiences that they're developing and invested in. And particularly they've got a lot of different avenues with their Android capabilities as well as their search capabilities to address some of these user expectations and features. But who are the people that are going to figure those things out? Those are SEOs.
yes,
Those are the individuals that are going to figure that out. And,
yeah,
Jim, for 20 years, you've built amazing team that goes and does this amazing work. We're forming, I think, one of the most impactful groups of talent that exists in our industry that just specialize in SEO and content marketing. There aren't many companies that do that. There aren't many agencies and consultancies that do this. Most of them will go do paid search or social or do a bunch of other stuff. We only have the best SEO resources on the planet figuring out this problem. Tell us how you've done that. Tell us about the people we've got. I think you are an example of how to create a dynamic and thriving group of SEO professionals
yeah,
that are doing this work. I mean, most of your people have been with the company for over 10 years.
yeah. Well, I guess it's we. I have a really special team. I do. They've been with me for years, and they've really fine tuned their craft. And some of them may not be as well known as other people that are specialized in that craft, but my guys probably know more than a lot of the people that are known in those crafts. um,
That's right.
and so they may not speak at conferences or blog, but they're really good. If we look at the different teams, we have the content team, and a lot of that is writing either well, I mean, when you look at content, you got optimizing current pages, finding content gaps, finding clusters to prove you're the expert and the authority on your areas of what you're trying to sell. Then there's the creating content for the purpose of, can you get links from schools and teachers and orgs and govs and old trusted sites? That's a specific type of content geared for those users. And there's can we create the viral content, the stuff that can spread and do really good on Reddit and get in the news and on blogs. And then there's the analyst team that is looking over all the technical aspects to a website and giving a lot of the SEO recommendations. Then there's the trusted link team who is specifically out there promoting the stuff for schools or teachers or .orgs, old trusted sites. And then there's the team that's promoting the viral stuff. You can't just create stuff and put it out there and be like, all right, you can help things by actually promoting them. And I'm not talking about paying links or buying
No. Yeah.
posts or anything. It's, creating real stuff
Right.
and then writing to journalists to cover that area and being like, hey, here's a piece you might want to cover. Here's a new study. Here's a new infographic.
Yep.
Here's a neat tool or something, non-commercial stuff worth covering. Um, there's another topic almost I should bring up too, and that's Google and other places continue to get smarter and smarter and smarter. And so, when I talked a little bit about links here, but part of what Google is looking for is, there's a lot of people that when they think about SEO, they're like, we do X or we do Y, and it's this, that's not enough anymore. You got to be real, you got to have your brand, you got to be everywhere. And a lot of the things that people do when hiring companies that's wrong is they hear that something is good, like link building is good. All right, let me get a whole bunch of like guest blog posts, and they run out
Yeah.
and they buy a whole bunch of these quick links, but they're like, but they're relevant blogs and they're going to write about my
Yeah.
product I sell and give me a direct link to it. And it's like
Yeah.
all these things are in networks that Google Maps that almost all that doesn't pass page rank. You're buying nothing. That's all the stuff that Google penalizes sites for. Like 99% of the penalties that are out there are, we've detected this unnatural link thing, and basically you're buying links in these networks. And so,
Exactly. Yep.
there's good and bad to all these. And it's like, if someone's like, I want to do the shortcut method that, I'll just pay a little bit and get something that, it's like, no, I think in today's world, it's like, there's no more hiding behind stuff. It's like your about us page, your author pages, like your brand name and your brand mentions have to be real everywhere. Like you can't just, I'll do this weird little thing and do a shortcut over here and that'll be okay. Like those days are over. It's
Right.
like, no, you got to do real stuff here and here and here and here, cover all of these different check boxes of, not just the content and the technical and, the stuff that you're writing to bring in more gas and links into your site to help
Sure.
grow. But, it's like you have to be real. You have to be real now, and it's like there's not,
Yeah.
the shortcuts are over. You got to be a brand. You got to be a brand everywhere. You got to participate in everything. You have to be the expert in your industry. And the expert is not one that goes into one or two areas and does shortcuts. Like those days are gone. Like, you got to
Correct.
be real
Yep.
everywhere. And you have to have real help of people that are doing the real things in all those areas, and the shortcuts and the guest blog post, or they're, buying artificial other things, like they're gone.
Doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the future. We've got some amazing people, both on the Previsible and on the Ninja side. We formed this new set of talent that allows us to serve all aspects of the web, everything from large enterprises to a digitally native brand, a startup. We can unequivocally answer all the questions of how to become present in organic sources of traffic, in everything from technical to content marketing to uh, brand, link reputation, trusted link sources, outreach services that enable a whole online business to successfully scale their presence in LLMs, AI search, and traditional search. This is remarkable. I believe it's remarkable. This is why we did this together, Jim. What's the future hold? How are you seeing the future of search? How are you seeing the future of our capabilities serving the changing landscape?
Well, I think a lot of SEO companies that were doing shortcuts are going to be out of business. I guess I'll start with that. It's like, only those doing real stuff are going to, have real results, and and
Yep.
that, I guess goes on to, I should say, only clients or companies or websites that are doing real things are going to survive too. And that's
Correct.
like, the client has to be willing to be like, yes, I'm going to work on my brand. I'm going to work on my brand everywhere. I'm going to work on writing this expert content. I'm going to, you know, work on social. I'm going to try and be a presence as many places. So I guess it's a mixture of, clients have to wake up, SEO companies have to wake up, and those that don't, they're not going to be in business. And those that are like, yes, let's do real things and build the brand and build our authority and expertise across the web, those are going to be the ones that are going to win. What is the future? I think it's more AI. What is that going to look like? How is that going to be laid out? We don't know. It's going to constantly change. But, if we look at just, if we look at AI overviews in Google or even Google's Gemini, that your best chance of being mentioned in the AI result is being on the first page of Google. Like, let's just
Mhm.
start with that. Like, there's all these other aspects that you can look at, but your best chance of being mentioned in Google AI overviews or Google Gemini is you're on the first page of Google for those
Yeah.
related phrases. Um,
You have
and
a reason to show
and
up.
that is
Yeah,
SEO
exactly.
for one. I
Yeah.
guess I don't know what version of SEO would call this, but it's like it's the all fake stuff gone, real build your brand. I don't know if that's level, I guess 2026. It's like, what's going to last not just this year? There's all sorts of changes. It's 2026. What is the future? I think it's more AI. Is it going to be Google? Probably. Is it going to be Chat GPT? Maybe Perplexity. I don't know. Is it going to be Bob's new AI version? Whatever. I don't know. But what they're trying to surface is the most trusted websites and pages out there. And the most
Yeah.
trusted web pages out there are those that are mentioned across the web naturally. They are
Yes.
experts at their craft or whatever they sell, and they have all this expert content, this non-commercial expert content.
Yeah.
And they're being mentioned other places, and they're getting backlinks, and they're seeing it's like, how to have the best site. So it's like, no matter what, if it's Bob's new AI 2026 that's the rave next year, like, we I guess it's kind of the same as search engines. I guess it is, they want the best sites, and along the way, along the years, there's been different gaming things, whether it's, you know white text on a white background, to artificial paid links, to guest blog, to whatever. And it's like, I guess, as they get smarter, any large language models, any search engines, anything gets smarter and smarter, the answer is you have to be more real and more real. You have to be more an authority. And so it's like, the game is the same. The game has really always been the same. Maybe it's
Correct.
been convincing either clients that, you have to do everything. You got to be real about it. You got to work on some expert plan, do some original studies, get your name out there, write stuff that can earn right links. Like, I guess it's, either educating SEOs and clients that, if you just continue to work on making your site the best site in the world and better than all of your competitors and doing everything all the time, you're going to win more often than any of your
Correct.
competitors.
And I couldn't agree more. I think that we are in a transformative period where the experts will prevail, as long as those experts are adapting to this changing landscape and the expectations that Google has had out for many, many years now. It's really funny. Even their new AI documentation, 2/3 of it is stuff we already knew. We already knew about structured data. We already knew about sitemaps. We already knew about making your website fast and performant. There are a couple new sprinkles in there, but the reality is that you still have to have that foundation. And the way you started your answer about the future is you still have to be on page one. You still have to be relevant enough to compete and win out 99.9% of the other players. And I think that's what's really unique about why SEOs are so well positioned to be successful in digital marketing in the future, is that they have the skills to do that. They have the skills to compete and win in this landscape. And I think it's exciting to see how us combined will drive even faster growth, a more complete set of services that, candidly, not many SEO consultancies and companies have today. Even some big companies don't offer a real value around brand building through link acquisition that creates meaningful impact to companies' traffic and revenue. And you've done that for over 20 years, Jim. And I'm excited to continue doing that with the ninjas. And I can't be more thrilled about the opportunity that we have to do this together. Um, I want to ask you, Jim, one kind of parting question here.
Okay.
Maybe a fun question. As you look at your legacy, as you look at what you've created over nearly 30 years in the industry, um, what 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 advice do you give the SEO community, the SEO businesses that are out there, the entrepreneurs, the new startup consultants, the new in-house or the rookie agency employee? What direction do you give them as we face this changing landscape? You've built a remarkable company in this industry, and that legacy is going to continue. And I'd love to hear from you what advice you'd give anyone in the industry.
Wow. Well, I guess it might tie into my last answer. No matter what it is you're doing, it's how can you improve the website? How can you improve the reputation? How can you add value to the site? How can you add resources to the site? Um, almost no matter what team that you're on, if you're an SEO, don't just study also your competitors, like study other websites. We used to study, if you want to study what other sites are doing. I don't know, search for like cheap web hosting or, uh, or some drug phrases or whatever. And like, there's other industries that are doing stuff that's really clever. And a lot of times certain industries, they only look at their own competitors. And so they're all just kind of doing the same thing over time. And it's like, yeah,
Yep.
all the flower people are doing X and all the lawyers are doing Y and they're doing this. And it's like, you know, there's a little bit of good in all that. Like, look beyond the competitors, like be that one that everyone's like, wow, Bob's doing this now, and be the leader, so to speak, and try other things and look at other things across different industries. And um, shortcuts, try not to do. um, And, there's, if you're an SEO or a company or anything, I guess it's, you better have a great plan on how to make your website and business and reputation better every single day. It's not another thing where people are like, all right, we did something, we're done. Mm.
Right.
It's like you got to
Yeah.
be doing this stuff every single day. If you did it, there's always the people who are like, we got links from the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and blah blah blah. I'm like, well, yeah, you got those links like 15 years ago. Like, it's not
What have
quite
you
the
done for
same
us
as what
today?
you're
Yeah.
getting this month. Like you
Yep.
want to be doing a bit of everything every month. Don't do the shortcuts. And there's always stuff to do to make your site better in all different categories. Like I can't see ever being bored. If you've
No.
done everything within your industry, start looking at what other industries are doing. Type in high volume, high cost per click keywords into Google and see who's ranking organically and what they're doing. And I mean, even if Google removes the first page of, clickable, it used to be the 10 links or whatever, like,
Links, the
even if
10
it's
blue links. Yep.
just AI, it's kind of like, those that have that knowledge of what are all the things that Google was looking for when they used to give, a page of links, what is all of that, and SEOs that have been around for a bit are going to know that. It's kind of like when there's, Google used to have all these penalties, panda, penguin, if it was a panda penalty, your content was bad, and there'd be certain days, and everyone whose traffic fell that day, it's like, oh, you got a content issue, or it'd be, penguin, which is, oh, you got bad links, but it all happened on one day, or there'd be above the fold update or the whatever update. And you would know that if your traffic fell on this date, here was the problem. And then Google's kind of stopped doing a lot of that. And it's kind of like there's this old score and new score. And like Google maybe does an update, and I don't know, maybe they're looking for obtrusive intercils or something, and they really don't like them now, or, whatever it is, but they don't take your rankings and traffic and shoot it down overnight. They're like, over the course of 6 months, you're gonna, hit your
That's
new
right.
score. And so, sites are going about and they're like, well, we kind of woke up one day and we're like, wow, our traffic's gone down in half over the past 6 months, not sure why. And it's like, it takes that person to be able to have all that knowledge and all that understanding of what are all the updates. In our case of AI, it's what are all the things that Google looks at to rank a website or to value a website.
That's
you
right.
know
Yeah.
and even if that first page goes, it's still, even if that first page of Google result goes away and it's only AI, or ChatGPT wins the war and everyone's only using that, it's still, what are all the things that um, that these engines or LLMs are looking at to try and put in the best sites possible. And those are good user experience, good content, authority, trust, links, all those things I've mentioned.
All those factors. Yep. 100%, Jim. I think it's a remarkable direction to give the SEO industry, which is all of the things, all the skills that we've learned over the years are still as relevant, if not more relevant, in doing our work very well. And it's going to be critical as the frontier changes to have those core skills and refine them, whether it's in your existing industry, going into other industries and seeing what they're doing well, and successfully applying those capabilities, whether it be in content marketing and in tech SEO, in links and link and PR and outreach efforts. All of those skills will become critical as the AI landscape unfolds. And that wraps up this episode of the Voice of Search podcast. A huge thank you to Jim Boykin for joining us. If you'd like to get in touch with Jim, you can find a link to his LinkedIn profile in our show notes or at voicesofsearch.com. For more information about Internet Marketing Ninjas, visit internetmarketingninjas.com. If you haven't subscribed yet and want a daily stream of SEO and content marketing knowledge in your podcast feed, hit the subscribe button in your podcast app or on YouTube, and we'll be back in your feed soon. Okay, that's all for today. But until next time, remember, the answers are always in the data.